Welcome. Let's have a bit of time with the import 3DM plugin. So last week did a minor fix and in general checked if the plugin still worked, and I was thinking of going through a couple of pull requests that have been open for a long time. So I haven't delved deep into them yet, so that's what I'm going to do in a moment. Last week or last stream I added running of the script in Blender 3. I think I'm going to see if I can get fixed up the settings for this. So let's see. Extension settings, we have executables, so let's see the executables we have here. I just want to give a better name than these paths, so this is going to be currently it's a Blender 3.3.0 daily build, and I think I'm going to actually remove all these really old ones. Yes, these I can remove. I have actually 293 as well, so let me quickly check if I can just copy the path directly. So yes, that would be 293.6. Otherwise the same location, so just let's add copy this one. Let's put it at the beginning, and let's put Blender 3 as second. So this is Blender. It's going to be 2.93.6. Yes, and just fix the path here. 3.6. This Steam installation is currently on Blender 3 daily, so let's keep it there. Okay, what did I do? I skipped a bit. This is Blender 291, Blender 2.91. I think I'm going to keep it for a moment still, although with the speed of development I guess it's going to be not very useful to keep the very old ones. So we now the path set better. Right, let's just do a quick test if this now still works. So Ctrl+Shift+P, Blender start. No, yes, it took a while to pop up at 2936 and 3 at the top, so that's what we want. Let's start with looking at Blender 3. Just going to check if it is available in the import menu. That should be all that I need to check at the moment. It's in here. And let's just do a quick test also with the current stable release. Just making sure that this all works. And then we are going to have a look at added to top pull requests in the very least. It's taking a bit time for Blender to start. Not sure why really. Oh well, Blender is starting, I hope. Let's put up the two pull requests that I'm going to look at. Adding of sub-D support and allowing multiple 3DM file imports. And let's start with the top one, because I do think that we are already adding or are able to import different files. But let's have a look. I'm not sure actually why Blender doesn't want to start. So maybe quit that. Let's see if I can do Ctrl C. No, it's not doing anything useful here. Oh well, let's not bother too much with that. Maybe kill the process if it's running. Blender is not running here as far as I can tell. Let's see, another Python, no. So for some reason it's not running properly. Well, I'm not going to put much time into that right now. Maybe I'll just close the workspace and reopen it. New window, let's open import 3DM workspace, and there we are again. So back to the pull request. Let's see. So this addresses the bug that ignores imports when there's an existing 3DM import in place, or if the layers collection exists in scene. Let's see if that is still the case. Where's my Visual Studio Code? Here. So Nguyen is asking if the topic today is to have Rhino working with Blender. So the topic is working on the import 3DM add-on, and this add-on for Blender is an add-on that allows us to read to some extent Rhino files into Blender. So that's what we're looking at now. Right, so let's first test what's going on currently in Blender when importing several files. Oh, apparently I had something leaning into my 3D mouse. Let's position that a bit better. Okay, file, import Rhino file, and from this course I'm going to let's see if we have some smaller files, or maybe not. Let's not do it like this. So we had the import tester file. Let's use at least that. And we don't do named views because we don't want them. Hidden geometry and hidden layers, not really interested in that at the moment. Let's update the materials. and keep the blocks maybe if we have any. Okay, and as I mentioned, this was actually a file in millimeter settings, so we have to zoom in quite a bit to see anything useful here. Maybe I'm just going to resave the file in a bit bigger setup. So it was this file. There we are. Let's do unit settings. We change the unit settings to meter, and let's not scale the model, so this will be actually lots of meters around, or maybe we do scale a bit, so it's not anything too big. So that would be what, 5 meters, around 5 meters, the smaller cube. And actually let's add to this one, let's be generous and add a sphere. And maybe a torus as well. So it should import all the files. So let's go back to Blender, and you see here that there is a file called a layer called import 3DM tester, and that's along the name of the file. And if we are going to import a new one, we should get a new layer with the name of the file, and under that the layers layer, as in the collection. Sorry, I have to use Blender terminology here. So these are collections, and they correspond essentially to layers in Rhino. But let's save this as a new name. File, save as, and let's have the original name, second tester. Right, let's go back to Blender, and I'm going to just now, so let's do that again. I'm just going to press space. I have the search menu bound to space. So I type in Rhino, import Rhino file, and we are already in the right folder. Import second tester, so it's this one. Right, so that's the error you can see now. And now let's apply this PR. How good is it? I forgot how to do this with forks on the command line. Where's my Visual Studio? Here we go. And actually we can now close this for a moment, because we're going to make some code changes. Let's see. Okay, so I'm still in the branch that I created for the fix we did last week. Git checkout master. We're going to ensure we have the latest. Yes, we do. And now let's figure out how I was supposed to do the PR from. Let's view the command line instructions. Okay, right, yes. Let's do these two steps first, so click. Always nice when we are helped this way. Let's see. Next we're going to test this now. So if we just check the change git log head, and it's going to be a really old change. So this is in file, in the file layers, right? Layers.python. And that change would be let's see, I'm looking to right. So this is around lines 43 and 45. Let's see what's going to happen with this change in place. Right, I already see. So maybe I need to do some extra testing as well in Blender. Can we have same named layers or collections? Collections in Blender if they are under different parents. So on my keyboard there's two rotary encoders, and with this one, while I hold this one, I can turn on LED lighting around my keyboard, turn off and turn on. And there are some other functionality like increasing and decreasing volume for music. For the next iteration of my keyboard, I probably am going to not have the rotary encoders, although they look nice and are nice to press. There are actually also buttons, so I can press this one. I get it's the same as the Windows key. And for this one, actually, I haven't bound any functionality. So let's see if we do now a new collection. It's collection 1. And a new one over here. Collection 2. If I rename it, it's probably going to be renamed. Right, so I guess that's one of the issues here. The idea is that we have the layers collection under each different file import. So let's first create a new file, just an empty file. Let's import again. So let's import a Rhino file. And first import oh, that's the wrong folder. Let's go to the Discourse folder first. Import tester. Right. So what we want is, we have here import 3DM tester. And under that collection we have the layers collection. And with each layer there's their own layer name. So I already see this is going to be problematic how I approach this for now. So because if you add different layers, different files, my initial idea was to have for each file this top collection in Blender, and under that all the same names between each different collection name, but that's not going to work. Let's see. Okay, let's see now with the patch applied if that's going to work a bit better. Yes. Import second tester. At least it's importing well. It's all importing under the same main collection. So maybe instead of doing this top collection that has the name of the file, maybe I should just get rid of that in the near future, because it's not going to be useful anyway. So maybe just have the top collection be called Rhino import and have everything under that. It can be then, I could imagine that it's going to become a bit problematic if you have several files and you want to keep them separate in a way. At least there's no error going on. Actually, there's already no error going on with the first time I tried. Let's put in a breakpoint and see if it even gets hit. Yeah, it should get hit. Yes, of course. So let's see. Actually, maybe see if we can change the name here. Resave. Faceted donut. And I guess this then is the ice cream ball. Let's save that. And re-import the same file. Oh, why am I using always the menus? I can just use this shortcut because I already have searched for the That's not overwriting the names. Actually, we don't know that yet because we hit a breakpoint. I forgot about that. That's why nothing was happening in Blender while I was trying to rotate in Blender. The question is if this is a live update between Rhino and Blender. No, this is not a live update. So what you get is it's just you save in Rhino, and then you open or import the file in Blender as in 2 separate steps. So there's no live connection here. I suppose with some extra code one could write maybe a script that automatically imports a file or re-imports a file whenever whenever a change is detected in the file. So maybe let's see. Test the material with let's put in some gold on the doors. Right, let's save this. So I'm saving this, and then I have to manually load in Blender, or in this case reload. So let's do that. Okay, so we are getting hit again in the breakpoint. Maybe disable that. We don't need the breakpoint at the moment because we know it's now getting hit. At least materials are updating properly on the file while re-importing. So to go back to this, I suppose at least we are getting now a proper layer, which is something we need. So we can for now accept merge this this request. I'm going to peek again in the instructions because I forgot how to do that. I already have let's do these 2 steps now. I was going to say that I have already done a fast forward only pull, but I was messing it up with no FF. I was earlier also questioned about my keyboard, if I could do a video on my keyboard. I probably will do that, yes. Let's see how far. We have already pulled that we did before we came online. Git log, let's see. Looks good again still, or looks good still, I guess, yes. And then we did push this. So now we have 1 PR handled. I suppose I could have done it all with just a green button. Just realizing it now. But so let's close this one now. So it is possible now to import several 3DM files. The usage of layers is currently not the best, so that needs to be fixed as well. That said, it is possible to get the geometry into Blender from several files into one dot blend. Right. So thanks go to Emily minimally for the pull request. Let's look at the second one. So from the same developer, and that is then bare bones support for sub-D. Let's see. What do we have here? So object type sub-D. So on a Blender object, we are applying after it's been imported. We are applying a sub-D modifier and create from sub-D control net. I suppose that's all. Let's do it for now. Let's see. So yes, we are getting a mesh from the sub-D control net. So I already mentioned a bit in the previous stream, but getting Rhino geometry into Blender needs to have the render meshes saved in the file, but the sub-D is an exception. The render meshes for these are not saved in the file. I'm not going to go into details why it's decided to not have the render meshes in, but since we have access to the control net, we can actually just get the mesh out of that and use that as the base for Rhino Blender interop essentially. So in this file I'm going to add, what shall I add? Let's do a sub-D cylinder and just add it here like so. And if we look at it, let's press tab. This is maybe not the clearest. Let me switch to Arctic maybe. Ah yes, but let's turn on in Arctic mode. Let's turn on the sub-D wires. So we can see this is the control net in flat mode, and this is the smooth mode. As a fun fact, during our development phase still, this was called creamy and this was called crunchy. Let's save this. Let's go back to rendered mode and maybe add another material to it, just to see that we get all the materials as we want them. We add this time a paint. Let's make it bluish. Let's call it like that, then it's easier to see what material we're talking about. Oh, I was missing a space, but let's not worry about that. So we have now a couple of extrusions. We have a brep, two versions, or two objects, and let's also add a mesh still. What shall we add? A mesh cone. let's put the cone here, because if we put it under here, it's a bit like it's the ice cream cone. And let's put on a simple plaster material with the brown. Well, that is not really brown, so let's make it more brown. Dark brown. Maybe put in some lightness, or still a bit more orangey. Well, this can do. So we have now in 2 B-wraps. We have 2 extrusions. We have a mesh object, and we have a sub-D object. So let's save this. What coding is it? Not entirely sure what you're referring to, but I'm working now on the import 3DM add-on for Blender. So add-on to load Rhino files into Blender, and this is one of the files that I already been testing with. So let's first load the file to which I added the sub-D object without patch. So we should see that it's not going to import that object, it's just going to skip it. So yes, we got the cone as brown colored as we wanted it, but we don't have yet the sub-D object. So let's see, we're going to bring in this change now, and it's just a couple of changes, nothing major. It looks like it should work just fine. Let's copy paste these instructions, and we go to our code. We are still in master. Oh, git. Let's do a pull just to be sure, and now we paste in the commands we just copied. So now we should be on the branch with the changes. Let's just quickly verify, double check that we do have those changes. It's in file, it's in the init file and the render mesh file. Let's just check the render mesh file. Render mesh file here, and indeed we have now those changes in, verified. Let's run, Ctrl Shift P, Blender start, and let's use Blender 3 daily. Guyen was asking about making a video on my keyboard, and I use Blender to do editing of my videos when I don't do live streaming, and here are some videos I did. So maybe I can show later on a bit on how the current setup looks like. But my setup, while I load, I can mention my setup is such that I work while I'm standing, or I stand while I'm working. I suppose I should say it that way around. Oh, wrong folder. So I have a stand in front of me on which I have attached two parts of my split keyboard. So this side is my left side, this is my right side, and they are next, a little bit in front of me, but otherwise next to my thighs. Import this file, and look at that. This is a really cool PR. I should have looked at this already. half a year ago, but there are no excuses other than I've been not diligent enough. This looks quite good. There's obviously differences in how Rhino creates the surface for this. Oh no, actually it's quite the same. Let me change the background a bit and hope that Rhino does not crash. Right, so we have a bit more color in there. Why not a bit reddish, pinkish color? Better contrast for my white objects, right? So indeed, it's actually very close. If you look here, we have these sides of the, what is it? How many sides we have here? I forgot how many we put in, but if we look again in Arctic mode, you can see it's 2, 4, 6, 7, so it will be a septagon, I guess. So if we take this into account and go back to smooth mode, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 corners, and they correspond to what we have in Blender now. So this is a really cool PR or code from MNMLY. So I'm going to land that one as well. What I am wondering about is, didn't I add a material here? No, I did not. Did I create one especially for this one? Yes, I created the material, but I hadn't saved it. So now we are going to also test again updating of an object that we already had imported once. So that was not my space. This is my space. It says already here import 3DM second tester, but I don't know. I feel a bit uncomfortable to press just import the file without actually selecting it in here. Oh, look at that, it's actually importing it. At the moment we don't have proper access to the material description as they are in the 3DM file. So the translation is currently not as good as it could be. You look, this paint looks too much like a metallic material. But at the moment, one of my co-workers is working on adding access to this kind of what we call RDK data, so render development kit, to the file reading library code, the code that's our Rhino 3DM Python library is based on, and that we are using here in our plugin add-on for Blender. So whenever we get to releasing Rhino 8, because I believe he's working for it, especially in Rhino 8 file format code, we should be able to then also get proper access to our PBRs as we have them defined in Rhino. So most of these material formats we have here, so emission, gem, glass, metal, paint, and plastic, are all kind of pre-made versions of, or simplified versions of, the physically based material. They just show simplified UI. So by paint you generally just do the color and the glossiness, but you can translate it, or behind the scenes it is translated to a PBR in Rhino at least. So I can change here to ray traced. And the materials you see here, apart from the one plaster material, or do I have more plasters? So I have actually several one here. This one is a Rhino custom material behind the scenes, as are these two. So the brown, red and green are Rhino custom materials. They are in ray traced actually quite complex shader graphs. It's quite horrible. I don't really like it, but we try to support, or I try to support as much of the features of the Rhino custom material as possible. Not always with good success, but it's in there. So this looks really good. I'm just going to accept this one and then blend it. This looks really good. Just looked at it and it is good for blending. So let's do that. I'm going to merge my pull or this pull request. Yes, I'm going to do it like this. Let's up the support. And thank you again to MNMLY. Minimally. Let's see. We've done now two of those PRs. Dependency installation, I think I'm going to skip, because at least for Windows and Mac, I'm now bundling in the releases the Rhino 3DM module, so that we don't have to do any pip install attempts during the installation of the add-on, or first usage of the add-on. It was kind of possible, but there were so many corner cases and it was so hard. I think this is just a better way of doing it. So embedding Rhino 3DM is what we're going to do in the foreseeable future. Let's see. There was one more. UV import only single mapping channel. Add support for import of UV coordinates. Okay, we already had some checks in here. I mean, so I've been not a very good steward here. Dropped the ball multiple times, clearly. Let's see what have we in the code now. We're going to add chords, and we are reading the extra coordinates the same way as the vertices are read, and that should be done just like that. We are then adding a new layer, UV layer in Blender called Rhino UV Map. And if we have data, it's being copied into the UV layer. Where's our UV? UV, is that an L or 1? Oh yes, of course. Now this is being introduced here, and then we are looping over the data and setting the UV coordinates. Well, this looks good to me. And if there is not a good data If there's something wrong with the two between the two, then it's not going to add the map. Actually, it's just going to skip and remove it when it's been added, like this. So let's check here if they are correct. They are equal between the two, then it's getting added. Let's see. I have to add to my test file. What shall we do? Well, actually, most of these have already surface mapping as by default, but let's do a simple plane. Oh, that's not a plane. A simple plane, like so, and then we are going to add a planar texture mapping. Apply planar mapping. We're going to add it here. Oh, what happened? It's a bit small, I guess. Let's show the mapping. Show mapping. Oh, I was clicking the wrong button. Stupid me. Anyway, we have now here the mapping visible. What we are going to do now is rotate it a bit and then also scale it still. Let's scale it like this. And I suppose what should we do here? Maybe add a material with just a simple texture on it, and then do we try to use the same texture when testing pictures? That's not pictures. Oh, what am I doing? Clicking wrong. Pictures. Let's use my UV tester. This one. Right, so it should be something similar in Blender when we import this. So let's save this. And actually we need to first, of course, apply the patch before we can test it. So check out master, make sure we are on the latest. Now we are. And I guess we should add here also MN into our import here. The author, I'll ask the author if they want to be mentioned here in the author list as well. Right, adding the applying the patch. Dun, dun, dun. I don't need to. The changes have been done, as far as I can tell, and this looks good enough. Let's see. Right, no errors here. Well, let's now assume that this went well. So let's see, we start Blender 3 with the script. And we import the Rhino file, the second one. Oh, wrong folder. Just the correct folder. Import tester second tester. Let's pick the bigger one. We do now have here this object, but since our material importing is far from perfect, we still have to do the texture setting here ourselves. So let's open it. It was somewhere under pictures, and it was called UV tester, I believe. UV tester, yes. And I believe I need to switch. So that looks like it's properly importing at least the first channel. Let's double check. Yeah, that looks the same. That's really nice. So Lucas did a good job there. We're going to land this one as well. Reviewed and tested. Thanks. And we're going to merge it now. Like so. Thank you, Lucas. So I think for an hour work we've gone through 3 PRs. They were not very complex PRs. I should have done that long ago, but now they are in. I think I'm going to end the stream here. One of the things that I'm going to do off stream is make sure that we're going to do, let's see, maybe actually go to the project. So we need to go to this one and ensure that the Rhino 3DM version available is actually the latest. Here we have on puppy.org 7.7.0, but we are actually already on 7.11.1, and there will be even newer in the near future. So that needs to be updated as well. So off stream I'll get with the coworker, just update it, and then update it with import 3DM and make a new release. And I believe that will be version 0.0.10 of import 3DM, and that will have in several new features. So reading of sub-D, importing sub-D, being able to import multiple 3DMs without the geometry missing, and the texture coordinates. I guess so it's Hiroaki Yamane, I guess, who did the fix. But for a new stream soon, one of the new streams at least, I'll probably get started on re-architecting the code a bit, and also make sure that it's all documented better, so that it's easier for others also to understand what the ideas are to do. So yeah, I think that's it for this time. 3 PRs with 3 new features or fixes. Sub-D, UV mapping, so the 2 features and 1 fix. And as mentioned, the dependency installing I'm going to cut out entirely. It's at least on Mac and Intel, or Mac and Windows platforms. It's just harder to get working than it's worth. It's just as easy, or it's just much easier to bundle the Rhino 3DM directly in the import 3DM add-on file, the installer file. So that's going to be it for this stream, and we'll work on this more in a later date. Thanks for joining.